first of all, never mention the burning. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, that amount of aluminum on your skin isn't a technical first or second degree burn, but it will keep you up all night. It will burn so bad.
So for everybody listening, how did you get started in marketing, and what drew you to being in this career path?
When I went to college for film, and I realized very quickly that unless I had multi-million dollars or had a very strong, like, artistic vision on what film should be, that I was actually more the guy planning the script, how the characters interacted, than actually shooting it. And it started kind of pinging in my head, like, okay, this is more marketing and strategy. I could have the best film ever, but if no one sees it, it sucks, right?
Right,
Because it's just going to sit on a shelf. But then if a ton of people see it and a ton of people hate it, at least a ton of people saw it and told me they hated it and I could get better from it. So I applied into the ad school at the University of Colorado at Boulder. You had to do it once you were already in, like, your second or third year. And kind of alongside of that, social media started getting really big in the late 2000s, and I really gravitated towards that. And where I found my niche was, like, speaking on behalf of brands and companies on social media back in the Wild West. Because I had that storyteller mentality. You could tell me what a brand stood for, what it did, and kind of its products and services, and I could try to have a one-on-one conversation with people, on a public forum. That led me, longer story, to applying for a job in Berlin, Germany for an online streaming platform back when Netflix was still doing DVDs, but it had a few movies that you could stream online, but the good ones were on DVDs.
Yeah, you had to choose between you could only you could pay for only DVDs, or you could pay for the online, and then I think then there was a combo or whatever.
Then there was a combo, but it, like, you're still like, just send me the DVD. Online streaming was not good.
Yeah.
So I applied for this job mainly being like, hey, I worked at a TV station in high school 4 or 5 years ago. But this is kind of how I think and how I communicate. And basically it was, old school Facebook groups. Like, before they had, the feed was so important, you could join these little, like, micro chat groups almost. There wasn't even sharing pictures or videos. It was just like, I think it was called, like, social media marketers, and there was like 150 people. And I'm like, oh, that's me. Like, sure, no scams here. Ended up moving to Germany, working for this online streaming platform, and kind of worked my way up into, hey, I'm just the guy who's doing social media, to now I'm thinking of the full campaigns because I want more people seeing our social media. I want more people interacting with our product and having, like, really good experiences from, the social media ad that they saw, to actually using the service and product and writing to customer support. Like, I really wanted to understand, like, how the human mind looks for escapism in a way, and what could be improved always. And I think that really helped me kind of differentiate myself in the market between, like, hey, you asked me to do this and I did it, versus you asked me to do this, but I had all this other time that I looked for improvements. I looked for better design options. I looked, hey, our website's not as good as it could be. That's impacting the people complaining on customer service, which is then complaining on social media, makes my life a lot easier. So it kind of started as that.
Okay.
And
can I stop you real quick? Couple of questions for you. So I just want to back up real quick. So you went to school. What was the degree for again?
Originally it was for film studies, and then I switched to strategic marketing.
Okay. So it almost sounds like there's some psychology to it also, with the way you're describing
100%. 100%.
Okay. I've never taken any marketing class. So is some of that is actually talked about in school then, or you find that out afterwards?
Yeah, that's what kind of drew me to it. Is I took, like, an intro to marketing class, and you had to take a couple of prerequisites to apply in. So I was like, hey, let's just see, whatever. It can cover it covered, like, the history credit. And what I found was there's a book I can recommend. I think it's 10 Ads That Changed the World, and they're all from, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. But it got into the psychology of like, why do we like white teeth? What does bad breath mean? Why do we wash our hands? Why do we give diamonds as marriage and engagement rings? Why is Santa Claus Santa Claus? And it wasn't about the ad, but it was about shifting culture and shifting, I guess, societal beliefs on almost arbitrary things. So one of them in particular was bad breath. There was never a concept of bad breath. You just had an odor to it, I guess, maybe. And then after World War One, we had all this battlefield antiseptic with Listerine. So they basically watered it down and tried to sell it. But everyone's like, why would I care? Because I don't ever think about what my breath smells like. There's no solution regardless. So they basically invented the concept of bad breath to sell you a product. And I was like, no, they didn't. And then you look into it and you're like, no one mentions like in old books, like they maybe said someone's breath smells horrible, but it's never that like self-consciousness of like,
Yeah.
I'm breathing into my hand for your listeners.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's wild. And then there was a chapter, spoiler, about Santa Claus. It's like, why is Santa Claus white and red? It's like, well, it's a Coca-Cola ad. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then you're looking
I
back and
didn't
you're
know
like,
that.
yeah, because he's existed in other cultures, right? He's in German culture
Right.
and so
Yeah.
on, but he doesn't look like that.
But he's
It's from
not
these
red and white.
and the rosy cheeks and holding the Coca-Cola. Oh shit. Now you're like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Your brain's like, yeah, I guess that is kind of what Santa Claus is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you're like, now you created this whole like, cryptid almost based on a commercial, and we've willed him into life beyond the commercial. But that's just so ridiculous. And this book I obsessed about. I mean, there's 20 cultural movements in it, and I could probably remember most if I tried. But it gets down to even like the Volkswagen Beetle and like De Beers diamonds, and you're like, it wasn't going after, hey, you should buy diamond because your wife will love it. That wasn't the logic of it. It was more psychologically analyzing how people thinking and why we buy certain things over other things and what
Right.
actually differentiates us. And I was fascinated by it. Like I had never critically thought about things like that before in my life. It was like, oh, I buy this because my parents buy it, or I buy this because it looks cool. It never was like form versus function or like reading the label to be like, hey, this thing does that, that thing does this. What's right for me? And I was saying, well, the only difference is someone said it first and someone said it louder than the other ones. That's all. Like I can do that. And that's kind of how my career took off, I guess. Was just those
That's
weird
that's
moments. Yeah.
fascinating. That's
Yeah.
really cool. So you graduate, you get the
Mhm.
job at what's the name of the company? Do you want to mention it in Germany?
So funny enough, I got a job at an advertising agency, which is where I'm at now. Again, after 12, 13 years, called Smith Gifford. They're 24 years old in the DC area. And from there, I think I was looking to still kind of like dabble in this film and TV thing. And then I started working for a company called Viewster in Germany. And it's like an old school streamer. I think they got bought up by mega media company number 25. I have no idea. And then liquidated back in the mid 2010s. But at the time, it was like an online film festival. And then they had like, shows that you would watch and movies and so on.
And so you moved to Germany
Hmm.
for that job. And
Yes.
did you speak German before you went?
Hell no. I literally, I spent about the year before using Duolingo, and I have not used it since. But I remember being like, oh, this, tool or service promises to teach me this language. I'd probably do it like 2, 3 hours a day. No joke. Like literally sitting in traffic, waiting to pick up groceries, doing all this stuff. And I showed up to Germany and was like, I just wasted my time. I didn't learn shit. Like that's people don't ask
Um,
constantly where the bus stop is. That's like a one and done, right? And I showed up, and you have these moments where you're so certain that you're okay, and then you have these like betrayal moments where you're like, oh no, this is bad. We were looking at an apartment, my girlfriend and I, and they said the price of the apartment, and I was like, oh cool. So I heard like 580 a month. I'm like, awesome. I had no idea, despite using Duolingo, I even went back to validate this. I'm sure it's probably changed in the last 15 years. I had no idea they said, like, instead of 25, they say 5 and 20 in German. I had no clue, zero clue. So actually, I had no idea any of their number system. My whole brain was like thrown off, and like, you're just like, oh no, I made a mistake. I shouldn't be here. Like, I can't do that. Like, I, what else has Duolingo lied to me about? But it ended up, I don't want to say it in case there are Duolingo lovers or employees listening, but it was useless. And I was really like, if I had all that time back, I could have learned a different hobby besides where the bus stop is, that the bear's wearing my grandma's blouse, what's for breakfast 3 days from now. It was completely useless. And later then learning German, to a degree, I'm like, none of this was relevant. You should just show me flashcards at some point. So yeah, it was silly, but I was also like, wow, I fell for, I got caught up in the gamification. I got caught up in the app,
yeah,
my winning streak, learning more. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a
You don't want
game.
to, you don't want to freeze out. You got your freeze streak on there, right? Oh, I got to keep
Exactly.
going, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I think my wife uses it daily for Spanish right now, so I'll tell her what you said.
No, I mean, this was back in 2000, 12 or 11. So it was a infant app, but I'm sure it's better. But yeah, I had that moment of, oh no, I shouldn't be. I thought I thought this would be more useful than it was. So
Wow. So you're at the German company. You're now in marketing there. You're helping them with that and a lot of other things, it seems like. So what if someone were to go and try to go into this career? What would the work-life balance be like? Are we talking 8 hours, go home, forget about it? Or are we talking, what, how did that play out?
I'd say in the United States, it's a lot different. So I would say there's a key factor, which is if you're going to get into this industry and you don't really know what you want to get out of it, it's not a good one to kind of like sit back and just hope someone guides it for you. And I guess we can go into that further later, but it's like, yeah, you told me to do social media, and they gave me some like bullshit number, like, hey, you have to post 10 times a day. They never said it had to be good. They never said it had to be better than the last day, but it's kind of your job as a marketer to always innovate, to like always be a little bit ahead of the curve. And if you're not getting views or engagement, you're actually just wasting your own time. And I did know a lot of people that are like, hey, they asked me to make 30 videos this month. So here you go. And I'm like, isn't your job so much more fun when there's like an enriching experience, and like passionate coworkers and people that give a shit, but also like audiences that want to see your stuff that aren't sending you like, please delete me. This is spam. This is
Right.
bullshit. You're like, actually, I'm wasting their time, and that's not fair. So it is a job where you could do 8 hours a day and be done as long as that 8 hours is super efficient and productive. But if you're kind of like high school me and you're procrastinating or like dreading that one like dark cloud in your calendar all week and it kind of like ruins that vibe, it's so apparent in your work because you are expressing creativity at all times that when you do have a bad day or you didn't sleep well, you're hungover or whatever, I'm almost like, don't show up unless you're going to show up with your A game, you know? And we all have those days, but I'm like, then don't publish it to the world. Like, do the strategy part to it now, do the editing part to it now, learn from your colleagues. Like, how can your brain do more? And I think that's the role of a marketer is if there was an easy answer, you wouldn't exist because then they would have done it themselves. So it's almost like, yeah, you could do 8 hours. I do all the time. It's great. But when you do have those moments of inspiration, sitting on the toilet, making dinner, laying in bed, that's like my time to be like, oh my God, tomorrow I'm gonna XYZ. If I know I'm kind of like burnt out in the day and what I'm gonna produce is kind of crap anyways, I'm like, hey, who am I kidding? But younger me, oh, I'd be working 10, 12 hours a day just to kind of like find my groove. And also, like, I knew I wasn't as good as the senior people. So I had to try like double as hard to get good. So that kind of fried me. But I would say it's really what you make out of it and like how your brain processes. And
So
if
it
you,
sounds like you're
yeah,
saying to me, you first of all, you have to be creative, and obviously a
yes,
very creative person. You sound like a very creative person.
you have to be creative in your own way. And that doesn't mean like pen to paper drawing pictures or wordsmithing, but you have to be creative of how you communicate to people, how you communicate to clients, how you motivate your team. But even if you are like an account manager or even doing like financials, there's still a art to it, that's not
It
just
almost
like,
sounds
hey,
like,
put your head down and
yeah, it sounds
yeah.
like you could take someone like you
Hmm.
and you'd be a great salesperson. Like if that's where you
Oh,
decided to go.
a ton of people have told me that. And I'm like, that is a role of a marketer, right? Is we're almost the impersonal sales guy that when you do get, hard sold something or you're told to check out something, that experience beyond word of mouth is the role of a marketer. So if I said, hey, Shane, you should really check out the new Chevy Silverado, and you go to the website and the website and it doesn't load well and all the reviews are bad and you can't find what you're looking for, you're like, why would I suffer through this experience? I'm just going to go to Ford. You know, Same with Netflix. You go to sign up for Netflix, it doesn't work. And you're like, but it has everything I want to watch, but I can't watch them. You're not like longing for, oh, I hope Netflix calls me and fixes it. You just go to Hulu or Amazon and you move on, right? Like that's kind of the sales guy mentality. Salespeople can navigate the conversation, but they very much have to rely on the handover, which is the actual experience. And that's the role of a marketer, is to make sure that experience is adaptable and also, I would say, aware of its pitfalls in a way. So to know how to improve, to know what the competitors are doing, knowing what's on the market, knowing if people actually want or need our product. Like I've worked, on commercial shoots before where I'm like, no one needs this. This is just like, some bullshit investor who's trying to pump out the big players, but it's like Procter and Gamble owns all the competitors. You really think you're going to outmaneuver them? Like, are you just wasting money? And is that the role of a marketer to say that? No, but it's the role of a person to say like, no, that's not what I want to do. Right. That's a little bit of a little tangent, but
Yeah,
it
no,
kind
it's
of
all
gets
right.
into yeah, you have to be passionate about what you do, I think. Um, because it does show in your emails, it shows in your presentations, it shows in your ads, it shows in your videos, it shows how you talk to customers. Like that's the job
So
in a way.
so you kind of have to believe in what you're marketing. It sounds like it would be difficult to, well, you have to market this item and you hate that item, whatever.
Mhm.
That it sounds like it would be difficult to do well in that marketing at that point. That
I mean, there was this, I don't know how crude we can be on this podcast, but there was an old boss that told me that we can never polish a turd. You can never make it a diamond. But he was told by his boss when they were pitching, I think, I want to say Reebok in the 90s. They had this whole story of they were in the room with the client, and the client asked, well, how many of you actually wear Reebok? And no one in the room had them. And they're like, well, then why would we want you to represent our company? And it was kind of that like haunting, daunting moment in my head where I'm like, it's not our job to wear it or not. It's our job to make it cool, but you do have to put yourself in the consumer's shoes. So yeah, there are moments where I'm like, oh man, this product's like horrible for the environment, or like, oh my God, they may as well invade a small country. They're so awful. I don't want to get involved with this. But then there's others where I'm like, hey, this is a really cool idea, but what you're telling people is so convoluted and confusing that they're taking away the wrong message. And when you're confused in a point of sale, no one just says, ah, you know what? Throw it on the credit card. You just don't buy it. So how do you have that conversation with someone? And I think that's more closer what I'm interested in, what drew me to this.
Can you
Yeah.
think of any, when you say that products that were off-putting for you,
Mhm.
can you can you think of any that you'd wanna mention? You don't have to say their name, you could just maybe describe it?
In my head, I remember one in particular, and this was 2014, so 11 years ago, and it was a deodorant killer. It was going to put all the deodorant business companies out of business. You know, forgetting that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that has entire aisles at Target, right? And what it was these wipes that were basically pure aluminum that you would wipe on your armpit. I'm demonstrating for your listeners. And after you did that and it dried, you didn't have to wear deodorant for a month. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So we're in the meeting and they're like, okay, first of all, never mention the burning. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, that amount of aluminum on your skin isn't a technical first or second degree burn, but it will keep you up all night. It will burn so bad. And this is the client telling me this. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's give it a shot because of this Reebok story, right? So I went out and bought it. I was living in Boulder, Colorado, and it's very dry and you're going to sweat a ton just sitting. And I put it on my arm being like, with my buddies, like, oh man, like I have my shirt off, I do it. Within 10 seconds, I was like, oh no. Like, oh no. It's like when you have spicy food and there's nothing you can do about it. I put this in my left arm and my brain went quickly on the right. You know what I mean? Like to regulate my body. And that whole night I slept with my hands like above my head. I tried showering it off. I tried scrubbing it. I like shaved my armpit hair to think like, okay, maybe there's like residue. And it was the worst. I mean, this is, 11, 12 years later. It was the worst. I've been in physical pain, but this was something that you're just like, I did this to myself. You know what I mean? Like I literally put my hand in the honey jar and then quickly rubbed it on my other arm. And I was like, this is the worst product ever made. Like, holy
Why did
shit.
they think that this would be successful? That the people, why would they think people would wanna go through pain
Oh,
for
because we
this?
aren't supposed to mention the pain. All they needed was to make that one first sale. And it came in like a 10 pack that was good for like, 5 or 6 months or whatever. And that was maybe enough to retain a customer to then get future funding from investors. Like, I really don't know because the experience was so awful. Okay-ish packaging. I wish I remembered the name of it, but I was actually mentioning it to my wife recently. And I'm just like, I'm getting we moved back to America. We're getting bombarded with all consumer goods. And I was like, do you remember when I told you that armpit story? Like, I'm sure they're still in business in some form or another. But it was just, one of these like stupid early 2000s products that's going to reinvent the wheel. And you're like, it's fine. It sucks. I'm not a huge fan of the deodorant brands, but it's better than wiping my body with acid. Um, and there's probably a scientist or someone that's listening to this right now, and they're like, actually, it's not aluminum, it's blah, 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 whatever it was. It was just pure concentrated whatever. And it was like a wet wipe. It's like a hand towelette. And just like that sensation hurt so bad that I was like, I cannot in goodwill market this product. It's horrible. Um, yeah, the
Excellent.
random
Okay.
ones. Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of these of like, oh, I'm just gonna go buy it, and then you're like, oh no, I gotta pawn this off on a friend before anyone finds out I bought
We don't
this.
want any repeat customers. We just want buy this
No,
big pack and we're
hmm
good.
well, it's pre-subscription business, right? Because subscription's all about keeping you engaged. This was more like hey, we got a 6 month supply for the same price it takes for 2 deodorant sticks. So your brain's like, oh, okay, cool. And then you're like, oh shit, I don't need all 6 months. You're good. I think I gave it to a roommate and he had the same feedback. And it was like all red under his arm and the whole deal. Yeah.
This seems like a product that, I mean, I don't know if we're talking in Germany. I know in the USA, the FDA or somebody should have been saying, "Hey, you can't sell this." Like,
So it's interesting because I don't want to misspeak, but it's same with car safety. You have to sell a certain amount of units to be FDA approved. And same with you have to sell a certain amount of units of a vehicle to have consumer crash tests done. So all those consumer ratings and tow capacities, airbag deployments, you have to sell a certain amount for them to do it because otherwise it's like, hey, there's only 1,000. Who gives a shit? Same with all these FDA approved products. If you are, I think now the big thing is like CBD gummies. Like that's the new hip trend. None of those are FDA approved because they're not over a certain threshold. They're not looking for national distribution. They're doing direct to consumer. Many aren't approved by the FDA. And that's okay, I guess. Maybe it's threshold, maybe it's quantity of business, maybe it's certain chemicals. But at the time, these wipes, I wasn't phased by that at all because it was like a startup.
hmm,
So
okay.
yeah, it's also scary when you bank on, you're like, oh, it's got to be safe. And then you're like, oh no, no one's actually peer reviewed this at all. Um, yeah, yeah.
I assume you tried to use soap to wash
Yeah.
it off, and it didn't matter.
I use like face wash even because I'm thinking like, what's another chemical that can? I was using conditioner. Like I literally sat in the shower being like, oh no 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 no, oh no 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 no, like this is bad. And I remember the shower even because I was like looking out the window at all my friends sitting outside like drinking beer and hanging out, and me just being like, trying to like wipe off the shame. But yeah, there's been a bunch of that stuff of like, even with clothing of like, hey, this is a clothing startup, let's try it out. I'm like, I think my pants are on backwards. I'm like, no, these are just shitty. I think they modeled it with like a chimp, not a human. So yeah, it's a lot of this, but you got to put your money where your mouth is, right? Where if it's like something you agree with and you think is a really life-changing product or service or brand or company or whatever, like sign up. Like,
Mm,
and I think that's an interesting combo over the years of like marketing television. I only got the job because I started being like, well, did you watch it? Like the sales team and the like producers and like the actual marketers internally would be like, well, I see the material, it looks really nice, but actually it's a vampire show and there's no mention of that. Did you watch it? And they're like, no, there's too many. I'm like, well, then why would you expect anyone else to watch this? And that I think says a lot. And it wasn't this company in particular, there was a ton out there, same thing, where you're being told the plot of a show and you're like, I showed up ready. That's not what happens. You know what I mean? It's like that's maybe how it started or the premise or the log line, but it's actually a, historical drama about romance or whatever. So I think that's the essence of the job is we're almost the spokesman for companies that don't, just push someone in front of the camera and say good luck. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a whole interesting history to marketing of like how it even innovated to what it is now in like the advertising sphere, but also just like, looking back at like old journalism and stuff. Like they were saying anything they could so you'd buy the paper. It could be complete bullshit, but it was the sensationalism, right? It was the 24-hour news cycle. It was following crime. And every little bit tells a story, so then therefore you look for that paper, not the competitor. Like that's marketing. Um, so yeah, just how that's evolving now is never ending. But yeah.
all right. Okay. So for marketing, strategic
Mm,
marketing,
yes.
who would you say this job is for, or maybe not for?
It's funny. I was just at a colleague's wedding who worked with me in Germany and now works with me in the United States, and there was a lot of marketers there. and their spouses. And it was interesting. I think the job is perfect for people with a weird attention to detail that other people won't notice necessarily, or you have a moment where you go to buy something and something seems a little off and you don't know why, or the grammar's wrong, or the sentence makes no sense. It's for someone that can detect that, 3 steps along the way. And it's also for someone that's not afraid to say, I don't know, but I'll find out, or I'll find someone who does. And that's not even just expectation management, but it's a way to, I think, as a role of a marketer, we always want to put our best foot forward, and we're a little bit of people pleasers in a way. But when you know you're out of place or outskilled or you're not the right person, our mentality in our brain says, I could fix this design, but there's a better guy who will make both of us look massively better. And your product or service or brand will look better. So you can't be afraid to say no,
So you
or
have to have a little bit of humble inside of you in order to be able to.
I think
I,
it's more like preservation in a way of like, it's a little defensive, but it's also like, it's knowing your own limit. I think the job is really good for that. And, talking to my wife and talking to friends who are like, my boss asked me to do this. I have no idea how, but I guess I'll figure it out. I'm like, what they're going to get is not the best product, right? Because you're maybe asking for something that's out of your role or out of your industry or out of your expertise. Get the expert. Why are you wasting resources forcing someone to do something that they're going to just watch YouTube on? So I think the role of a marketer is to find, to identify my own weaknesses and do a little bit of self-reflective, analysis of asking for help, asking friends, hey man, I see you do XYZ. This would really enhance, our campaign for these guys. Could you talk to us? It's not like, we got it, guys. We're going to learn all these cool tools and skills and we're going to make it work. It's like, no, because that's representing another company, that's representing a client. So I'd say the job really is that you got to be quick on your feet and know your limits. And then also know how to align yourself with cool people doing cool things, because it really relies on a network of cool people to be successful.
okay. All right. If you could change anything about being in marketing, being a strategic marketer, if you could change anything about that, what would it be?
It's funny. I was thinking about this earlier, walking the dog, and I always was like, oh, I wish I could design better. And then, you see the rollout of AI, you see like the fast deployment of all these AI tools like Canva and the Adobe suite. And like, well, that's that's struggling just as hard as writers and anyone else that's put on the line with AI. It sound really bad, but like, not everyone needs a TikTok page. Not everyone needs a website. Not everyone needs an Instagram. Figure out what your business objectives are and utilize a strategy that addresses those objectives versus just doing what everyone else tells you to. Because in this world, we have a limited amount of free time. We have a limited amount of resources as humans. We have a limited amount of revenue as people. There's I would say 99% of ads I get, I'm like, what are you doing? What's your goal? Like, you're so off your mark that you're just burning money. And if that's what you're going out to do and burn money, like, more power to you. If your boss says, I just want 1 million views, I don't care. But there's a lot of conversations when I have with clients of like, we want a new website. And I'll be like, why? You trying to get more sales? Are you trying to get in publications? Are you trying to get B2B partners? What are you trying to do? And they're like, oh, we just want it to look cool. I'm like, for who? Put some sunglasses on everyone. Give them some cigarettes. Who cares? Like, if you just want it to be cool, just do it. But what are your objectives? That's the point of marketing. So getting some of these, like, I just call them pure clutter, like being hounded with things that I don't need to buy, that I have no intention of purchasing, but I've performed some action that signifies that I'm susceptible to whatever product. I think that's what needs a change in marketing. It's just shotgun approach. It's not actually catering needs and wants. And then I'm like, well, have we strayed too far from why we all got into this position in the first place?
Hey, quick time out. I just want to say that if you'd like to come on the show, email me at talesfromtheshiftpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll talk about your shift. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about your career. So, you went on to work for a television broadcaster in Germany.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
at what a, what were some of your roles there? What would a marketer be doing there at that place? What did you do?
Yeah. So it's called ZDF. It's the biggest public broadcaster in Germany, one of the bigger ones in Europe. There's the main public channel, and then there's like the private commercial leg. And then they had an agency attached that did all their marketing, did their streaming platforms, did their one-off shows, did their, adjacent games and stuff like that. And I was leading that agency, but working, with our own content and shows and series and streaming platforms and apps and all that stuff. So what I did there was really think about, we're in a new era of television. We're not just tuning in and sitting back in our chair and channel surfing, and looking for something to watch. It's very much you have to kind of either know what you want to watch or be told what to watch. And at the time, my colleagues might agree or might disagree with me, but we weren't telling anyone to watch this. We were a B2B, production and financing leg of finding really cool projects and working together with other studios around the world to bring them to life. But then you're like, okay, some of these shows I've watched, these are 10 out of 10 amazing. Let's broadcast to the world we did it, and click here. They're all the seasons are available with your Netflix subscription, and you're relying too much on these platforms. So I was like, all right, we need to think about like either making our own streaming platforms, which we did, making our own database of viewer data to validate how good some of these series are, because none of the streamers are ever going to tell you. But also like watch what people are doing online. We're not going to shape culture with a shitty show. We're going to have to find a cool way to tell a cool story that gets people to say, okay, yeah, next episode's for me. And finding those gems and finding those moments of like, especially during COVID with no one producing content, well, what do we put out? You know, and some of those shows being overnight hits, it was totally unexpected, right? The rules were totally thrown out. It was like all of a sudden this show that wasn't maybe going to get any airtime is like trending in Southeast Asia and Europe because it's something new, right? And it was my role to really pick up on that and how to like leverage that further. Um, but yeah, I wore too many hats at sometimes and not enough hats at others. So yeah,
You wore
yeah,
too many hats, as
too many
in
hats.
you felt were you overwhelmed sometimes, or
It was back to that like, oh yeah, oh we need to optimize our customer journey. I guess I'll do it. And I'm like, I'm not, like, oh no, I can't do that. And then like, oh yeah, we need to really think of a new budgeting system. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. I'll figure out how we can turn this thing around. Um, but then also, talking to producers and sitting in writers' rooms and being like, I actually no clue what you guys are talking about. But here's what I think audiences will think. Here's why audiences would watch the next episode. And you kind of find your favorite chord in that sense. But I think I definitely bit off more than I could chew at times.
okay, okay, all right. Let me ask you this: so you've marketed products, obviously. You've also
Hmm.
marketed entertainment. So would is there any difference between how you would market a show versus a can of soda? Like how
I think, I mean, to be really simple with it, it's like, in a way, if it's a point of purchase, like a soda, like, hey, this is XYZ. tastes like this, makes me feel like this, kind of reminds me of so and so. More of an emotional buy and also point of sale, right? You're in the store, you either pick it up or you don't. You have some type of recall in your head that said, like, oh yeah, I saw Spindrift ads, I'm gonna buy a Spindrift. Or, click here, add it to your Amazon cart. The TV, it's a little different because you have the traditional artwork that you would see on Netflix or whatever. You have the trailer, which a lot of people don't like because there's spoilers and you don't get much of it.
Seems like there's too
Now, yeah,
much in them a lot.
because
I
they're
feel like
desperate,
I'm
right?
just watching the whole movie right now.
They get you with all the jokes, right? And then when you're in theaters, you're like, it's not funny.
Yeah.
I remember that. I
I've heard
literally
all those
saw that. I,
jokes. Yeah.
I actually had a moment where I went to see a movie. I don't remember what it was, but I saw the trailer for the movie before the movie. Like they totally screwed up. And I was like,
In the movie theater?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It literally played
Oh.
the trailer for the movie and then like 4 or 5 more. And I was like, wait, what? Like, am I in the right theater? You know? But it was
Yeah.
like, that's like telling me the punchline and then backpedaling to explain to me why the joke is so amazing, right? Marketing television's different where you're not asking someone to watch your show. You're asking someone to stay engaged with your series. So you have to sell them basically a 10-hour promise that they will not be bored, betrayed, or feel like, where the hell is this thing going? And there's been a couple shows in the past that I've watched we haven't made, but I'll be like on episode one will end and I'll be like, what's the character's name? There's the thumb again. What's the character's name? What's the plot of this series? Like, there's no hook yet.
Yeah.
You're in episode 3 and you're like, oh, there's been a murder most foul. Eh, you know, and that sucks. But that's also like a marketing scripting structure issue that now you see in television. The hook is happening halfway through the first episode because they want to say, like, this is a high value production series that has tons of twists and turns and it's going to constantly keep you on your feet with cliffhangers every episode. That's tough then to then say, okay, well, that's not Tuesdays at 8 p.m. That's literally go for it. Here's all the episodes. Go for it. You want to autoplay or do you want to watch anime? You want to watch the news? Oh, you have your phone out. You just going to watch TikTok? You don't want to watch episode 2? So how as a marketer do you have a conversation that literally can span 10 hours of content, but you never know if you have seen episode 1? So do I just keep repeating episode 1 as marketing material? No, because that gets super boring, right? You want to give them a taste of like, look where the series goes. They're in space now. They're underwater. They're in Aruba. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but you also want to acknowledge that there are fans watching it, chronologically as it happens. So how do you have that conversation with them to then say, hey, we see you watched all 10 episodes. The same people made this other series, but it's not as good, or it's, a slow burn, or so it's all about understanding, like, I guess the entertainment cycle that we have as humans. And there's parts of me that are like, I wish I could just sell Spindrift because that's more price based and flavors and what wacky celebrity you want in there. And yeah.
And you use the product, so we're off to a good start.
And I'm obsessed with bubbly water and I since moving to America don't like the bubbly water here for some reason as much. I don't know. So I
It's
just
weird how a
chug
lot of the
these.
products are just not the same thing.
And maybe it's the environment, right? Like in Germany, they're always like, do you want flat water or bubbles? And I was like, if I'm going to pay for it either way, give me the bubbles. Since the water's not free at restaurants. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about AI. So
Hmm.
a lot of companies, I guess, are, well, every company, right,
Yes.
is looking, how
Every
can we use
company.
AI, right?
Hmm.
So would you say, how would, I don't know how you want to talk about this in marketing.
Hmm.
How is it affecting the businesses in marketing? How does it affect your work?
I would say when ChatGPT came out or released in its current model or close to ChatGPT 3 or whatever, 3 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I was at South by Southwest with my old company. We're all like, oh my God, this is a game changer. Oh, this is so crazy how it can just spit out a script in 10 seconds. Oh, this can write a song to my dog. No one really said, this sucks, right? We were more just amazed that it did it and that it reduced a lot of the busy work in our lives. And it does. It simplifies a lot of shit. Where if I write a really long email to a producer, it could organize my thoughts in a coherent manner, mimicking human behavior, right? It's learning based on what we do. Now, what you see is with images, video, AI responses, AI bots, AI agents, it's more or less that on steroids, right? So it's incredibly low barrier of entry because you can have a conversation with these things. You can tell it what you're trying to do. You can upload endless case studies, scripts, product demos, ads, and have it analyze commonalities. But you're the one kind of doing the work. If you're using AI well, you're telling it exactly what you want, exactly what result you expect to get. And when you get it, did it do it yes or no? But what we're seeing happen is people are just lazy. And the laziness is becoming what people call alphabet soup, which is this long ramble on LinkedIn that's 30 paragraphs long. And you're reading it and you're like, what do you want? Tell me what you want. And you're like, no, 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 no. What do you want? Not what ChatGPT wants. Like I see the M dashes, I see the organization structure. What do you want as a person? Cut through the bullshit. And I think it's hard to put that into words or put it into an image or put it into a design or put it into an audio mix or a workflow optimization where you go, I actually don't know, but I want a result. You don't know A and B, but you know C. And I think AI is disrupting. That's the old buzzword from 10 years ago. It's disrupting a lot of these workflows for people to critically think about how they're using their day and also how they're using their workflows and realizing like, oh shit, I spent 10 hours proofreading this script and ChatGPT can do it in 10 seconds. Well, then I'm just not going to waste my time reading scripts anymore. Written by a human, but checking for grammar issues, spelling, misquoting character names. Amazing. If I was like, hey, actually rewrite it, it's just going to be slop, right? It's mimicry. And I think that's what people fail to remember from AI is it's trained on us. It is not trained on the human brain. It's trained on the results of the human brain. The thought process and the analytical notion of understanding culture and society in the now and how to apply that to what you're doing is kind of there. And I see it sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, you're like, hey, give me 10 taglines for so-and-so. I was like, you did. Back to what I said before, like you technically did give me 10. They're all shit. If you were a human, you would have never sent those over. It's like, you asked me to do it, so I did it. You asked for a new logo, you got it. And you're like, this logo sucks. And it's like, yeah, it does. And I've had ChatGPT tell me that. And I'm like, then why'd you show me? It's like, because you asked. And I think a lot of people don't have that analytical skill where they're just happy to have something for an affordable price, put out in a reliable time frame. But how we rely on that as society is scary.
It really starting to bother me lately as to how often I use Claude a lot, but it's
I
how
keep
often it's
wanting to.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just how often it's wrong. And
Oh, it'll
then
fight
you're
you.
like, well, when you can tell you say, hey, you're wrong, and then sometimes, oh yeah, sorry about
Dude,
that.
my bad.
Like,
My
my
bad.
bad.
I mean, I
What?
can think of 10 instances in politics where they've clearly used ChatGPT to make up court cases, to make up statistics. And you're like, you did ask for a statistic. It gave you one. You never said validate the source. You're like, yeah, close enough. And I remember like ChatGPT came out and there was a lawyer who, I forget, it was some high profile defense of some corporation. And they were quoting all these precedents to say like, look at what other companies have done. And they're like, none of these are real. But you did ask for, 10 instances that this defense was used, and ChatGPT will tell you. But yeah, it's like, even if you I think I uploaded a budget once, and it's something stupid, but it was like $100,000 project over a year or two. And it was like, yeah, in revenue, you're going to make 12 million. And I was like, awesome, sick. And my brain went, great, copy and paste it in. And my wife's looking over my shoulder. She's like, are you fucking kidding me? You really think you got a golden goose? I'm like, looking at her like, what? And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, it has all the information, but in its brain, ChatGPT's brain, it wants to please you. So you keep using it. So it's like, yeah, of course. Here's your $12 million idea. And then once I redid the numbers, I'm like, oh no. No, 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 no. There's no millions. You know what I mean? Like this is actually a
Yeah.
dumb idea. But I did ask for it to like analyze this budget, figure out loopholes, and figure out how to make it successful. And it doesn't give a shit that I'm, gonna physically do it because it's like, okay, here's what you wanted. Same as an intern, right? It's like you ask them to do it doesn't mean they're gonna do it good. Thinking of my own internship times where I've definitely like screwed up majorly. So yeah. So you did ask me to clean the copier. There was a minor fire. You know what I mean? But it is clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so social media marketing. Are you
Ooh.
familiar? I would assume you're familiar with what goes on in that
But yeah.
space.
Hmm.
Would you say it has evolved from how it used to be? Is it different now? Are people doing it wrong? What are your opinions on that kind of thing?
I have very strong opinions, but I think they're somewhat offensive to the average person who loves social media. I think social media exists now to only sell you stuff. No one gives a shit about your friends. The algorithms don't care. Your friends aren't making money. So a majority of your feed will be ads for products or insertions of products or services to make you perform an action because that's how these services make money, right? Like as a marketer, that's 100%. I would much rather display an ad that you're paying $5 a conversion for than your friend's baby photos. Who gives a shit? And you're going to use the app anyways because you remember what it was like. You still have no alternative, whatever. The way social media used to be was a social conversation. It was community building. It was finding similarities in how people are communicating and offering them your brand if they're fans. Like I remember being a fan of Tide on Facebook and I was like, I don't give a f- about Tide. Why do I like their page? And I was like, well, the ads are kind of funny. Back in the day, the Tide Pod challenge was kind of funny to the survivors. But it was like, okay, really? People are doing this? All right, let's see what they have to say. And now you're just bombarded at all times on all devices. I got an ad in my car and I was just like, dude, I don't care. I'm trying to listen to Alice in Chains right now. You know what I mean? Like it's one of these Google integrated systems. And it was like, oh, did you mean this? And I was like, no. Why'd you just tell me it was trademarked? You know what I mean? I was like, that's some weird. And I think social media now serves a purpose of validation. And I think it also serves a purpose of riling the pot. And there was at a key moment. Um, I don't remember the title of the movie, but it involved gay marriage in the Middle East. And it was a movie we were marketing. And we realized no one was really watching it. And we're like, okay, yeah, that's fair. Maybe you don't want to watch a documentary about it. And we started getting a ton of hate, pure hate in the comments. But what that was doing is telling the algorithms it has a ton of engagement, has a ton of clicks, has a ton of comments. And then there was people going in to defend it, which is even more comments and even more things. And it was like, oh no, we don't want this at all on our site. But it's getting so much engagement, which is getting views because people who do want to watch it are now being served the content because it has X amount of content. And then you go back to the Cambridge Analytica scandal from 10 years ago of purposely looking how to rile up areas and certain demographics so that it does perpetuate the ads. The ad buy is cheaper, it's viral. You're micro targeting communities with the wrong candidate just to piss them off, which is then bringing in the people to defend it and bringing in the other people and this and that. And I think social media is getting to the point now where a majority of ads I see you can't even comment on. And I'm like, to those marketers, you're cowards. Because if you can't take the criticism of publishing on a social media platform, don't publish. Um, and it's interesting because there's so many products out there where I'm like, let me see what people have to say. It's like the comments have been disabled for this ad. I'm like, sure, that means it's shit, or that means
Mhm.
people hate you. And it's just goes to show that that flies, right? They're still going to make money. They're still going to spend ads on those platforms, but they can't take the social element of it. So what's the point? And I have some examples, but I don't want to call them out. But one of them is the U.S. military. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. All right. Next question.
Yeah.
So you've done it was another thing I know nothing about. Fandom
Yep.
marketing for anime.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
That's the most intense
how did
job
that
I've ever had.
how'd you get into it? Tell us the story with it.
So it's back at this streaming company in Germany. We did online film festivals. So it'd be like indie films, horror films, fantasy films. We have like different festivals. And I don't remember how this started, but for some reason or another, we got like 6 or 7 anime titles that ran probably in like the 90s. They were like the Toonami era, of Cartoon Network, where it has like Gundam, Dragon Ball, and then like 10 other shows. We had the 10 other. And they were getting, I'm not joking, more traffic than the rest of our site, despite running paid media, despite running ads to say you can watch for free, download the app. It's just these 10 titles. And it was a moment where I look back on it a lot. It was 10 years ago. I'm still friends with all those guys, and we ended up working at the next company together. So they'll appreciate me saying it. It was over Christmas break, and I think 2014, where I go, well, why are we posting all the other shit if no one cares? If this is getting 30 times more views than the next non anime title, lean in. Clearly, they're coming for this. Why are you being like, hey, we just saw you watch an anime show about vampires? Would you like to watch a documentary about cats in North America? You know what I mean? Like, that's just not, what are you doing? You're burning that user experience, right? And then they go, oh, well, I came here for the anime or whatever. What we realized was at the time, Crunchyroll existed in the United States as the only legal source to watch anime. In Europe, there were no players, no officially licensed. I think in the UK there were with Funimation, but we were the only ones that kind of stumbled into this, being like, wow, we found a niche without even realizing it. Do we alienate all those people and tell them to leave? Or do we start licensing a ton of other anime titles? I knew nothing about the genre. I knew nothing about, you know, the thousands and thousands of titles out there, but I can tell you out of the 18 years I've been a marketer, that's the most dedicated, forgiving, welcoming, and spiteful community I've ever worked for before. Um, and some of those relationships I still talk to daily that are still in the industry. And part of that is just like listening to them. They were illegally streaming, downloading, and watching anime since the 80s, right? Besides the couple that broadcasts on television and Cartoon Network, the only way you could get it was either buying the physical media, which is most likely bootleg, or peer-to-peer streaming. So when you now created a solution for them, you're weirdly like their god, but you better get up to speed quick. Where I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
what's good. And they're like, oh my God, how don't you know? You're in charge of the social media. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm 24. You know what I mean? Like and so I started going to the conventions. I went to about 30 a year all over the world and meeting people, meeting producers, meeting fans, meeting writers, meeting other marketers, people who just sold DVDs, people who sold merch, and listening to them and talking to them. It's like, wow, we can make this a lot better than it was. And I think that's the bummer of like when the Netflix did launch, it's a no-brainer for them to have this content. So that became like kind of how the company evolved out, and how I got into other television as well.
So for me personally, I don't
Hmm.
I find it not interesting, anime.
Sure.
Would you
Yep.
say that going to all these conventions and being involved in it, did you gain an interest in anime, or do you like it? I mean, did it affect you in any way like that?
That's the tough part is I went into anime thinking like, okay, this is a genre. Like we got fantasy, we got drama, we got horror, and then there's anime and comedy. And in reality, it's just like that's the medium more. That's how I'd explain it to people is like you have live action, you have animation, and then you have like Japanese anime. But within that, there's a million different genres. 99% I think is not for me, and that's okay. But the couple that do hit, I'm like, oh shit. No, never make this into live action, whatever you do, because it's kind of suspended disbelief is part of the genre. You know, as humans, we're all kind of looking for escapism in a way. It's why we listen to podcasts. It's why we read newspapers. It's why we play video games. Anime was like, I can't watch this and play on my phone at the same time. This is pure focused escapism in a way where I'm not worried about work. I forgot what kind of car I drive. I don't even remember the name of my dog. I'm watching this. There's 12 seasons. Let's go. And I think that understanding that took about 2 years for me to like really wrap my head around it of like, this is just not the same narratives we're used to. So I can see why people really obsess over it because it's just endless content. And I can also see what repels people, which is like, why am I, this could have been, you know, an hour long movie. Why is it 7 hours? You're like, well,
Yeah.
it's entertainment, right? It's escapism. Um, so yeah, and even dabbling in it now professionally, I'm like, wow, the market has evolved intense. You know, it's like people can create this on their own if they wanted. And they do. And some of the most viral things I've seen in the last 2 years are like these indie creators making a show during COVID, it going insanely viral and then getting picked up by a network. I'm like, you kind of that's insane, but you tapped into that fandom, you tapped into that accessibility, you tapped into that narrative. So I guess it's marketing in a way. And the
Right.
merchandise is
Yeah.
insane too. Any show has like a bucket, a truck backing up full of merch attached. So it's like, well, if you like that show, you're gonna love the keychains, you're gonna love the phone case, you're
Yeah.
gonna love the t-shirts. And you
Yeah.
never see someone walking around with Law and Order SVU shirts, you know?
No. No.
And that was always our joke is like, if you did have that moment, you'd be like, why? what, what are you doing? That was always the golden era of TV is like, we're like, hey, we really want this to be cool with teenagers, but, you know, do we need to start going the merch game? I'm like, when they have this as another outlet, there's video games, there's the whole deal for this anime title. What do we got? 10 episodes? That might not be enough. You know, we need a video game of some sorts. We need a fandom online. We need to have a social community. You need to like, you know, entertain people in different ways.
Yeah. All right. So you had mentioned that some companies need marketing, some don't.
Yes.
I'm curious about, can you give some examples of that? What are some wasting money, or what do you think on that subject?
I'd say everyone could use marketing if you want more customers or you want more clients or you want more exposure. There needs to be a goal. Like I said before, you need to know why you're marketing. What are you doing? Do you just want eyes on your page? Well, what are you selling? A professional guild that's only, you know, applicable to financial professionals. Well, you don't want, you know, non-financial professionals coming to your site. It's just a waste of money. I'd say the biggest examples I've had before are people that and companies that do maybe need marketing, but they trusted the wrong person or the wrong agency to do it. But their results are so good on paper that they keep going. And then when they do go out of business or have financial troubles, they don't know why. But I'll give you a couple of examples. I just started a new Instagram account a few months ago because I just did. I haven't had one in 5 years personally. And I get ads to come into specialty shops and like gourmet shops in like Connecticut, Vermont, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, you know, whatever. I've not been to those states in 15 years. So then I'll be like, okay, did you want me to go to your online store? Oh, you don't have one. Why the are you marketing? Like, geo-restrict this. Look at, who's in your marketable area, drive them in store. Is social media the best tool you got? Like, I'm in Colorado right now. I have no intention of going to your cheese shop in Connecticut. Another thing I see a lot are these I know why people do it, so I don't want to shit on them, but it's like B2B software tools. I'm like, me as the common man, I get it. It's for top of mind awareness, but you've missed your mark so intensely by running a pre-roll on YouTube to make your software look super cool and everyone's having a great time using it. Like, no, you're using it for a solution, right? You're losing it to reduce redundancy. You're looking at to optimize revenue. Show that, showing your cool party or like me having fun. And I saw one, I don't remember what it was, but it was like a guy having a backyard party. And he's like, yeah, let me just quickly log on to X tool. I'm like, no, no one does that. So unbelievable. It's fucking stupid. And I would say if your company relies on a celebrity to sell your product is also pretty weak. But that's a controversial take. So, and I don't want to go
Is
down
it
in
true?
history as saying that, but
No, no, it's
it's like
okay. It's
Matthew
okay.
McConaughey doesn't care about booking.com at all. He's never used it. You know,
So you moved on from the television channel, and so what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I'm back where I left the United States. Long combo, I've stayed in touch with them. Some of them have worked there 10, 15 plus years. And so I've stayed in touch and I relied on them a lot in my career in Germany. So there were times we would do a website redesign or like an app launch, or I would just say like in general product branding in Germany. And I wouldn't be happy with the results I was getting internally or with external vendors in our network. So I would always rely on my old employer in the United States to be like, hey, look how it's done. Why are we waiting 3, 4 months for a shitty, rough draft of something? These guys will do it over the weekend. They'll crank out a whole idea, they'll pop out a brand out of it, they'll think about marketing positioning, and it'll be done. This month, maybe it costs the same, maybe a little bit more, but at least we have it. And I kind of banked and relied on them so much as like inspiration, but also like that's where I learned the ropes of the industry. So that's kind of how I imparted my wisdom on my teammates in Germany for 10 years. So it literally took having a conversation with them being like the president of the company, Trisha, who will probably listen to this, being like, well, the future of the company is kind of what you're doing in Germany. And also the future of the company is evolving. Do you want to join the company and try working remote in Germany? I said, all right, and I tried it for like a month or two, and I already kind of decided to move back to the United States, but I still was like, all right, maybe I'll make this work. I'm up till like 3 or 4 in the morning to meet the time zones. And I'm like, no, because your brain doesn't go, well, then I'll sleep till 3 p.m. And, that's
Yeah,
just not, it's not
yeah.
a good system. So yeah, I moved back here and now, um, with these guys in Smith Gifford, like it is a physical office, but we're all remote. Trisha, the president of the company, still is nearby and is there, but it's just the work has evolved to be fully digital, so we can do it all on our computers regardless. We don't need to physically be there. Um, but it's really like I would say the category of it's creative agency, but it's doing basically what I've talked about for the last hour is figuring out what problems you have as a brand service, IP, software, healthcare networks, financial services, figuring out what your audience actually wants and what they want to happen with their lives, their experiences, their dollars, and finding a good solution for them in a manner in which they want to be spoken to. So if you're selling something, do we just want to run Spotify ads nonstop? Will that convert someone to your website? Probably not. But if they're looking at career advice on The Economist, that's probably a good time to offer career advice. And thinking of like situational marketing and thinking of like what's the end to end relationship having from the initial ad, whether it be YouTube, a magazine placement, a print ad, Spotify, IMDb, whatever, to like, did they enjoy the product? Did they lapse? Did they buy it once and never buy it again? Did they go to the hospital network and it saved their life? And now they're preaching it to the choir. Talk to those people. And that's kind of the mantra of how we're operating and how we're looking at things in the future is like I said, with the website, you want a new website? Well, why? And most say, I don't know. Well, because we've been told to update it. Yeah, you're fine. Are you getting leads and you're getting business? Oh yeah, all the time. I'm like, yeah, you're fine. Like it, the sales guy in me is like, oh, well, blood in the water with sharks. And it's like, well, what would you want to do that's different? Well, I don't know, just get more reach. I'm like, well, then let's market your website. Let's market your brand. Maybe your website's fine and functional and it's bringing in what you need. And maybe what you need is to understand where the gaps are. Well, do you have Google Analytics? Do you have, customer lifecycle tracking? And they go, no, or maybe, or let me ask some guy. And you're like, well, that's where you should be looking for opportunity. You know, don't fix what's not broken, but also identifying that it could break is great. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times, a lot of websites do need to be fixed or updated or further expanded, but you need to have a clear goal in mind. And that is almost our job as Smith Gifford is to find that goal and to say, hey, you wanted 20% more sales this year. Here's 10 things we can do together to make that happen. Not going for the lowest hanging fruit of, well, have you considered not the color red? That's not gonna cut it. You know,
Right.
what about a teddy bear as a mascot? It's like, it's not enough. You need to tell a story. You need to carry people through a journey. You need to have a conversation with audiences and be ready to listen. And yeah, that's what we're really focusing on. And we're doing some TV pitches too, because that's my background. But it's always crazy you're throwing marketing agency at a TV show versus, internal team or internal writer of them just blowing it out of the water, being like, this is a crazy brand that's telling the story of this English boarding school. And you're like, I feel like I've seen it. It's like a completely different way to tell a story, which is like, we're looking for a buyer. We're looking for a producer. We're looking for actors to get involved. We're looking for a TV network. It's just a different way of presenting information. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well then, what is a secret that most people don't know about marketing or the marketing, could say the marketing career?
I would say this is something that I've struggled with in my life and something that is coming to full blossom coming back to the United States is marketing is all about your network and how people perceive you as a person and being someone that people want to talk to, being someone that people want to hang out with. If you're super rude, and I've met people in my career that shut me down immediately, super rude, it's like name off of list. And I was always told, I had this like, I don't even remember what I was asking. There was a client that was just ungodly rude to me and just like digging into me. And I was just like, dude, I'm just asking for like a logo file or so, something stupid. 10 years ago, they applied for a job at my company and had no idea that I was the hiring person. And I wrote them an email back and I wasn't mean, but it was basically like, hey man, I remember you, and he's like, oh man, I'm like, it all comes full circle. I would say the secret to advertising is not being mean and being someone that people want to hang out with because it reflects in your work. So a secret is like, if you're fun and cool and have great stories to tell and people like hanging out with you, you'll probably excel really far in marketing. But if you're going to be an ass and be a pain in the ass to hang out with, the reputation follows you literally in this story across the planet. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, oh man, I could just burn this into this dude. And instead, I was just like, oh yeah, cool. Well,
We need you to come in for 10 interviews, you know?
well, I don't know if it's still on Smith Gifford, but we have a no asshole policy. And I almost wanted to be like, refer to, you know, policy number 37 that said this, but it was just like, no, well, what's that going to do for me? Then he might not even remember being mean to me, but he'll remember it now. And he's a cool guy. I mean, he posts random shit on LinkedIn every now and then, but it was just one of those moments of like, wow, it is really a small industry. Word really gets around. And then coming back to the United States, seeing the flood of people that I've met over the years welcoming me back and having conversations with me and like, jumping in my calendar or calling me on the phone to talk to me and like being welcoming, even though we're competitors in a way, is like, those are the guys that are still in this 15 years later. It's like, you got to be a pleasant person to be around, but you also have to want to be pleasant. So I think the biggest secret is just like be yourself and be a nice guy or girl.
Awesome. Yeah,
Or,
and
or
I
yeah.
think, Hank, after talking to you for an hour here, it's obvious that I am perceiving that you're a cool guy. I mean, you're definitely, you're enjoyable
Thank
to
you.
talk to, and I can see why you do well in this career. I mean, based off of the definition you gave as to what makes someone successful, it's quite obvious to me. You're very funny.
Well, thank you. I appreciate hearing that. And it's interesting over the years of even being like, you know, what do I want to do with my career and what do I want to be? And you have those moments where you're like, this is actually what I'm passionate about. Like, I'm not faking it in a way. Like I said, because then I'll just say no and then rub it all over my armpit and be like, oh God. But it's also like having that self reflective moment to be like, hey, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but not today. And that's why you wedge your bed in the corner so you can only get off on the good side. That's how you get around that.
Right, right. All right, Hank. Anything
Cool,
else
man.
for us before we wrap it up? I appreciate your
Nope,
time.
that's it. Yeah, thank you. I really
Uh,
appreciate it. You have really good questions. It was fun.
Thanks. No, thanks for coming on. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
hope we
man.
can talk again. Maybe we'll go further down this marketing path. It seemed like you have a lot more to talk about on the
But
subject.
yeah, I got a
Yeah,
lot of weird stories that I'm sure someone will hear one day and get mad at me for telling, but I'll keep this to myself for now.
right on. All right, Hank.
Yeah,
All
man.
right. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.